Welcome to the BEASTwriter podcast. I am your host, Ryan Sakamoto, and today we are going to be discussing my draft crush, running back Najee Harris out of Alabama. Now, let's go ahead and get started as I delve right into it as to why Najee Harris is my draft crush. But before I do that, I just want to say thank you to each and every one of you who subscribe to my channel and spreading the word. It really means a lot. I love hearing all the comments at the end of each podcast episode. You will notice that I get back to every single comment, and the reason I do that is because the social media engagement on YouTube trumps everything else. Trumps Twitter, trumps Facebook, trumps Instagram. I feel like those are kind of like static and white noise, whereas YouTube is more the authentic engagement, and that's why it's my job as I build up my own brand to kind of bring up the YouTube community and build up the BEASTwriter family. So in doing so, I just want to say thank you. Be sure, since you subscribe to my channel, to turn on the bell notifications so you get notified when I go live or when I upload content. Also, I'm looking at my analytics, and the number is still 83% of you are still not subscribed to my channel yet watch all my videos. So without further ado, please do me a solid and hit the subscribe button in the lower right hand corner of your screen as we stay up to date on all things Beast in real time. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started on my draft crush, Najee Harris. You guys know, if you follow me on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, that Najee Harris is my draft crush. Even on YouTube, I've been saying it, pounding the table for Najee Harris. And it's baffling for me. If you watch my earlier podcast where I had Najee Harris ranked in my top 5 on my top 50 big board, he comes in at number 4. Well, Mel Kiper, comparing it to what Mel Kiper put, the great NFL draft guru, who I really, really respect, by the way, all joking aside, but he has him ranked number 22. And I don't know if that's because that's his jersey number or whatever the case may be, but 22 is low. I mean, you just turn on the film and you can see why I have him ranked number 4 overall. The film doesn't lie, and that's the number one indicator of how to project an NFL player. And when you're doing that, you take that into account, you're going to say, okay, well, BEASTwriter has Najee Harris ranked 4th overall on his big board, aka vertical board. And Mel Kiper has him ranked 22nd. So what's the discrepancy there? Well, I'm going to talk about that later on in this podcast. But getting back to Najee Harris, specifically, again, the same people who are doubting me on Najee Harris, who's my draft crush this year, are the same people who are doubting me about my draft crush last year, and that was wide receiver Justin Jefferson. If you remember, I put out a podcast on Justin Jefferson in my pre-draft analysis, saying that the 49ers should stay at 13, draft Tristan Wirfs, who I thought would be available, which he was, and not reach for need, diminishing the value of the pick, by reaching for defensive tackle Javon Kinlaw to ease the blow of losing to Forrest Buckner, which happened. I furthermore said, if the 49ers were to trade down, that would be a likely scenario that I would be in favor of, because then you can gain draft capital in return from losing the Emmanuel Sanders deal, and possibly getting a 3rd round pick, and then in the late teens, in the 19 to 25 range, which I stated in my podcast, and target wide receiver Justin Jefferson. Well, they didn't do any of those things, except for draft Javon Kinlaw. So, yeah. YouTube receipts, Twitter receipts, boom. Another one in the books, cashing in, baby. But getting back to this podcast, this is why you follow me, right? Let's talk about Najee Harris, right? Why is he my draft crush? Well, I scouted him over the last 2 years, obviously dating back to his high school days at Antioch, coming in from the Bay Area. But let's look at some accolades he did, right? Specifically last year, right? He broke the SEC single-season touchdown record with 30, surpassing who? Derrick Henry, who also wore number 22 and played for Alabama. And that happens to be my comp. Now, if you take it a step further, let's look at my analysis. So I'm saying, like, oh, man, so you're probably saying, oh, yeah, you really scouted this guy 2 years ago. Cool story, bro. Yeah, I don't believe you. Well, check the Twitter receipts, check the YouTube receipts. I'm going to break it down. This is what I had to say on November 8th, 2019. Let me just pull it up for you on Twitter. I said, my scouting report on Alabama running back Najee Harris, inside zone runner who displays great vision to bounce outside while taking advantage of catch tacklers with his violent running style. Not afraid to initiate contact and rarely cowers out of bounds, always fighting for extra yards. The go-to move is a nasty stiff arm or a hurdle from tacklers who try to lead with their helmet instead of squaring up shoulder high. A north-south runner who has the instincts to make the first tackler miss. Not an explosive home run threat like running back Josh Jacobs, but gets the job done. Again, this was said on November 8th, 2019. And we all know what happened in that Notre Dame game where he hurtled over that defensive back and whoop, see ya. That was awesome play, man. Epic. Epic. But no, not much has changed from 2019, right? My analysis is pretty much on point, and here we are sitting in 2021. It's now February 18th, and my analysis, and I believe was on point to the point where for me, as a scout evaluator or talent evaluator, I only saw his draft stock skyrocket from 2019. And it comes down to this. What I noticed in 2020 was something that I saw more of in 2019, but it was just a smaller sample size, obviously, right? Being his first year as a full-time starter. I saw a player who is not scheme dependent. That's huge. So now you're not going away from the target market of what your bread and butter is, which is, oh, this guy's strictly a power run guy. This guy's strictly a zone blocking guy. No. Najee Harris can do both, all right? Furthermore, he is a dual threat coming out of flat. Now, you can go back to his first year as a starter during his junior year and say, well, he had 7 touchdowns compared to, I believe it was 3 or 4 this year, but he had more catches this year, right? He had more targets this year coming out of the flat. So that just proved to me that he was able to improve from his junior year going into his senior year, and that's a testament to his work ethic and off the field performance, including practice, lifting weights, all that is being confirmed, right? His ability to grasp and open up the playbook, allowing him to do more things in Nick Saban's offense, right? So with that being said, again, I see a player who is not scheme dependent, a guy who can catch out of the flats. So now you're looking at not only a one-trick pony, like a lot of these power backs, these north-south violent running style backs like the Ron Danes of the world, and you see guys like, I believe it was TJ Duckett from the Atlanta Falcons. I mean, these guys are power backs. They're not going to do much. Like Jerome Bettis, he would not be good catching the ball out of the flat. These are north-south violent runners. But at the end of the day, it's like, what else do you bring to the table? And the list goes on and on and on. Well, Najee Harris is a north-south violent runner, but he can also do other things. So he's not just a one-trick pony, guys. And what I really saw and what I really came to admire in his senior year from his junior year is his ability to block in pass protection. That allowed Mac Jones the allocated time to make the right reads and make the right throws and throw with accuracy. So that's something to look forward at the next level, because again, if you're going to draft a running back, which is becoming less and less likely in the first round, you're going to want a complete 3-down player where you can trust him on first, second, and third down. Short yardage situations, game situational football, and the ability to not miss assignment when asked to pass pro on those 3rd and long, 4th and long plays. Name a running back who can do all those different things and do them consistently. It's hard to find, man, but I believe Najee Harris is that guy. All right. So aside from that, what I love most about Najee Harris is his ability to turn a 3-yard loss into a 3-yard gain. I mean, that goes without saying. Again, I said my scouting report doesn't go down on initial contact. It at least takes 2-3 guys to bring him down on any given play. It's ridiculous. So why are draft analysts, let's get back to our next question, right? So why are draft analysts bearish on Harris? Why is ESPN Mel Kiper, Todd McShay, Daniel Jeremiah, Bucky Brooks, all the big time guys, why are they bearish on Najee Harris? Well, there's a lot of tread on his tires, right? In the last 2 years, he's carried the ball 460 times. That's a lot of carries and a lot of beating for a guy who's going to be entering the NFL and possibly carry the ball 25, 30 times a game. Now, with today's NFL and the way the rules are dictated toward the offense and especially protecting the quarterback, you will see wide receivers get open, and that's why offenses are taking advantage, because you can't hit a wide receiver going across the middle anymore. Plain and simple. And you can't hit him high, you can't hit him low, and if you do, you can't lead with the helmet. There's all these different rules. The face mask, the hairline fracture of the face mask. And so basically, you're seeing all these receivers and all these padded stats go up because, again, NFL is the entertainment factor. Fantasy football plays a role, obviously. But then also player safety comes into play. With that being said, the running back position is becoming more and more obsolete because, again, you can win with a running back by committee approach. However, I would be quick to argue that you still need a stable workhorse, reliable running back to get the job done in a deep playoff run. Just my thinking, all right? Because games are won where? Down in the trenches. And if you get to a point where you need that short yardage situation back, but then you also need to keep the defense honest because they're stacking the box. So can this running back come out of the flat and catch a pass and maybe go for a 5-7 yard gain? That's why you have this running back by committee approach, because one can do one thing and another can do another. So then now these one trick ponies, you add them together, then you get a multiple trick pony. But what if you have that one trick pony that's not a one trick pony? Like that one trick pony who people believe is a one trick pony, but you can do multiple different things like Najee Harris. That's what I'm saying. Najee Harris is the real deal, bro. All right, so tread on his tires. That's why NFL draft analysts and gurus are bearish on Najee Harris. He had 460 carries over the course of his last 2 years, 2,690 rushing yards in that span, while scoring 50 total touchdowns. All right, so again, a lot of tread on his tires, but if you look at future behavior, we need to delve into the past, right? If we're going to predict how Najee Harris is going to project at the NFL level, past behavior will tell us and give us an indicator of how that's going to turn out. And you look at players like Eddie George, right? Eddie George in 1996 had 604 carries from the Ohio State University. Then you look at Edgerrin James, right? Edgerrin James out of the U in 1999 had 426 carries, right? So you compare that to what Najee Harris had with 460, and it's right around that number. In fact, Eddie George is at 604, and his career wasn't shortened. I mean, he had a hell of a career with the Tennessee Titans, Houston Oilers, you name it, right? So to say that there's tread on his tires and that's why you should be bearish on Najee Harris and that's a red flag, I think that's more clickbait than anything else, because you're probing and trying to find something in Najee Harris's game when there's really little to no weaknesses in his game other than not being a home run threat every time he touches the ball. You go down the list. Sean Alexander from Alabama back in 2000 had 534 carries. Again, more than Najee Harris's 460. LaDainian Tomlinson, LT out of TCU back in 2001 had 673 carries. Steven Jackson, coming out of Oregon State back in 2004 had 669 carries. I mean, you're looking at running backs consistently rushing over 600 times, but still having great careers when they go on to the NFL. I mean, D'Angelo Williams out of Memphis, right? Memphis State at the time. He had 623 carries in 2006. Adrian Peterson, future Hall of Famer, right? What did he do at Oklahoma? 409 carries in 2007. Same draft class. Marshawn Beast Mode Lynch, right? Out of Cal. 2007 draft class, he had 419 carries. And then you go Mark Ingram at Alabama, 429 carries in 2011. And then you go back to Ezekiel Elliott out of the Ohio State University in 2016 had 562 carries. So to say that Najee Harris has tread on his tires, I would be quick to argue that, because if you go and look at those 10 players that I just mentioned, the future behavior tells us it doesn't really matter. Now you can play devil's advocate here, because I like seeing things from both sides and be like, okay, well, let's take a look at Alabama Trent Williams, right? Has a lot of tread on his tires coming out, and that took a beating, right, on his body. Then most recently, you can take a look at Christian McCaffrey from Stanford and Saquon Barkley out of Penn State and put those guys in that group. But then if I was rolling the dice, and I was a betting man and playing the odds, I'd rather take the 10 players that I just mentioned versus the 3 bad ones, because again, future behavior would tell us that Najee Harris, more times than not, is going to get it done. And now I'm going to take it a step further. Let's peel back another layer of the onion to really get to the core, right? I always say that. Let's peel back another layer of the onion to get to the core. And the reason I say that is because I'm painting a picture, guys. I'm painting arguments and formulating my analysis based on layers of the onion, because you can't just get straight to the core without having factual information backed up by analytics. That's just not how I run business. So if you really look at, again, past behavior, since 2010, 18 running backs were drafted in the first round. 18. 11 of them were first round picks. Sorry, they were first round picks. Sorry, I was like taking a phone call right now. I'm like, what the hell? Okay, no. Let me reset. Audible. 18 running backs were drafted in the first round since 2010. So 18 running backs were drafted in the first round since 2010. 11 of them were Pro Bowl players. If you're doing the math, that's 61% success rate. 61% on hitting Pro Bowl players at the running back position in the first round since 2010. I'd play those odds any day of the week. Any day of the week. And that's BEASTwriter analytics for you, right? Because it's more than just a coin flip on whether or not Najee Harris is going to be a Pro Bowl player based on past behavior. Again, Najee Harris is not a one-trick pony. He adds value to the offensive scheme, whatever that is, whether it's zone blocking, whether it's power run, and he will be able to get it done. Now, with that being said, make no mistake, aside from that, he will test well at his pro day. Let me just reiterate to you guys that he will test well at his pro day, which is why Mel Kiper, Todd McShay, Daniel Jeremiah, Bookie Brooks, I'm going to foresee it because I already know how it's going to play out. That's why I don't watch NFL Network much or even ESPN that much when it comes to draft, other than the news. But Najee Harris is going to test well. Like, that goes without saying. If you watch the film doesn't lie. And how I run my evaluations on scouting players is very simple. I like to take players for what it's worth. So I watch film, I break down the measurables because he's going to test well. I have my hypothetical numbers, or numbers that I think where he will end up when he runs at his pro day and tests at his pro day. And then I need to see and confirm what I see on film if those numbers that I think he will have at his pro day match up. That's how NFL scouts do it. They don't go in blind saying, okay, well, this guy ran this. Then they go back to the film. No. That's doing it backwards. They watch the film. They predict what his number's going to be based on that film study at the pro day, and then cross-check and reference those numbers. All right? So this is how I see Najee Harris pro day playing out. If I get this right, I'm going to be mind blown. No, I'm joking. But he's going to come in at 6'1", 222 to 227 range. 6'1", 222, 227 pounds. That's the range I see him coming in at. I think he's going to run a 4.5, 4.56 40 time. I don't think he has that 4.4, 4.5 speed. Now, if he does, again, I haven't seen that on film. But if he does run in the low 4.4s or even a sub 4.5, again, Mel Kiper, Todd McShay, he's already for me. So that'll only be all right. I think he'll run a 7 flat to 7.093 cone drill. Right, that tests a player's lateral agility and quickness. Again, you want to look at the vertical jump to test a player's explosiveness. I think that's very important for the running back position. I value the vertical jump very highly when it comes to the running backs, and I believe he'll have a 37.5 to 40 plus inch vertical jump. We all saw what he did in that Notre Dame game. I keep going back to that game film, and man, that hurdle was amazing. And if he tests anything less than a 37.5 off the vertical jump, then I'll be shocked. I'd be shocked, right? As far as the broad jump is concerned, that's another measurable where I like to test a player's explosiveness because it's from a zero ground starting base, so you're not having any forward momentum lean and you're just exploding off the blocks. I see a guy having a broad jump in the 125 to 128 inch broad jump range. All right, as far as the short shuttle, again, you're testing a player's stop and go, reaction time, lateral agility, muscle twitch fibers, the fast twitch muscle fibers, how quick those are moving and firing off the gates, firing off the blocks. I see him running a short shuttle if he chooses to run the 20-yard short shuttle in 4.25 seconds. And again, on the bench press, that is one where I don't value so much at the running back position because, again, everything is relevant. You're not going to be able to get off blocks or sustain your blocks or break tackles if you don't have upper body strength. But at the end of the day, if you know how to leverage and you're the lower man, you're always going to win anyways. But it doesn't hurt to be strong upper body, right? For instance, I'm 5'5", 154, and I could put up 225. My highest was 23 reps. 23 reps of 220. No, 27 reps. Sorry. No, it was 23 reps. 23 reps of 225. And, well, I was going to say if it was 27, that'd be crazy. No, 23 reps of 225 at 5'5", 154 pounds. And people who say, oh, well, you have short arms, so it's a shorter distance from when you go down to when you go up as the full range of motion. And then I go, okay, well, how does that compare to a 300-pound lineman who does the same exact weight? 225 is not even lifting his own body weight, but can do more reps. So I'm actually stronger than him, even though my arms are shorter, because even though he has longer arms, he's not even pushing his own body weight. That's like me doing 100 pounds at 154. I can knock that 60, 70 times easily. So if you want to play devil's advocate, bro, I would argue that doing it my way at 154 is way harder than an offensive lineman at 315 pushing 225. People are dumb. People who know nothing about lifting weights are stupid. Like, they talk like they know, like, oh man, like, he needs to hit this number. Like, it's like, dude, like, what are you talking about? It's dumb. It's dumb. But anyways, I think Najee Harris should put up some good numbers for him at 225 or 227, whatever he clocks in at, 222. And a number that I would like to see him hit is 20 to 24 reps on 225. I think that's a good number for him. And if he hits these measurables and tests well on these numbers, I think he's going to skyrocket on all the NFL draft analysts' mock board, big board, because again, Najee Harris is the sleeper no one wants to talk about, but yet everyone will talk about after his pro day. Once he takes his shirt off, he's going to have a chiseled physique. You're going to see the abs come out. You're going to see his shoulders and traps explode. You're going to see a guy who has strong legs, big quads, big hamstrings, big calves. And again, if I'm evaluating a running back, I don't care so much about the upper half. I think you're going to be conditioned anyways, especially if I'm looking at you as a NFL player, especially in the first round. But more importantly, I'm looking at the trunk. I'm looking at your butt. I'm looking at your glutes. I'm looking at how you come out of your stance. I'm looking at your legs, your quads, right? Because at the end of the day, what are you doing? You're running the football. You're not throwing the football or catching the football. Odds are you are running with the football, and obviously you need strong legs to do that. You need to keep your legs turning after initial contact. You really need to be able to create a certain type of a spin move or leverage your technique however you want to do it. Whatever your go-to move is an open space. But with that being said, it all starts with your legs, and you need to have a strong foundation from the ground up, especially if you're a running back. And that's why I believe that the lower half for me is more important than upper body strength, which goes back to my point on the bench press. You look at guys like Christian McCaffrey, although he got injured, people say, oh man, that guy's weak. He needs to hit the weights. He needs to hit the weight room. Not really. The guy is a 2,000-yard player. 1,000 receiving, 1,000 rushing, and when healthy. And yeah, the best availability is durability, but at the end of the day, you cannot say he needs to bulk up, and that's the reason he's getting hurt. I'd be quick to argue that any day of the week. Any day of the week. Now, there are some players that can bulk up, and I'll talk about that more in detail in a later podcast, but for now, specifically as it pertains to this podcast, we're going to stick to Najee Harris, and I think he's going to test well at the pro day, and also run well at the pro day, and he's just going to look like a chiseled maniac. People are going to talk about Najee Harris how they talk about DK Metcalf having ripped abs. That's how I see it playing out. He's going to climb up the board don't be fooled. I think a lot of it's clickbait for now, because obviously we have to get the readers and the followers engaged, because Najee Harris is not talked about much, but it's my job to point it out. So when it becomes news, you're in the know before they know. That's my motto on my podcast. Be in the know, because you follow me, before they know, those who don't follow me. And that's what's going to happen, right? So when you look at the vertical board versus the mock draft, right, how I see the actual draft playing out, Najee Harris in the end is my number 4 rated prospect as of now. I see him falling off as early as 16 to the Arizona Cardinals, and possibly having him mocked as of now based on draft position to the Miami Dolphins at number 18. So if I am looking at it, again, it's very similar to my draft crush last year, where I had Justin Jefferson going in the 19 to 25 range. And I see similarities when it comes to Najee Harris. I think he's going to fall off in that range. By coincidence, my draft crush always fall in this range, which is the 19 to 25 range. You have the Pittsburgh Steelers at 24, who also need a running back. You look at some other teams in that mid-20 range. Let me just pull it up right now. But you have a lot of running backs, or teams that need running backs. You look at the Washington football team. They need a running back, right? So they can also make a play for Najee Harris if they choose not to go after Kadarius Toney out of Florida, right? And then you look at the Indianapolis Colts. They don't need one. They got Jonathan Taylor. But then you look at guys like, the Tennessee Titans. They don't need one. They also have Derrick Henry. New York Jets, right, at 23. They also hold the number 2 overall pick. So whether they keep Sam Darnold, whatever happens with that quarterback position, God knows what happens there. I think they go Zach Wilson. But then you get Zach Wilson, a running back. Saleh now has a quarterback and a running back in his first NFL draft with the New York Jets. That's crazy. That's good. That's good value. And Najee Harris would be a steal at number 23. So again, that's where I see Najee Harris falling off the board as early as 16 and as late as in the late 20s, even possibly 27, 28 somewhere. But I see him falling off realistically, again, in my NFL mock draft based on my analytics as of draft current position. I see him falling off as early as 16, so anywhere in the 16 to 25 range is where I see him going. As early as the Arizona Cardinals. And I don't know why the Arizona Cardinals how do I explain this? It's mind-boggling. Yeah, because it's blogging that I'm looking at. No, but it's mind-boggling that I don't see more blogs having the Cardinals mocked Najee Harris at 16. People say Travis Etienne from Clemson because he's more of a inside zone, outside zone type of a guy, would fit Cliff Kingsbury's offense, similar to what Kenyon Drake brought over from the Miami Dolphins. But I think Najee Harris is the better overall prospect. I know my man JP would agree with me. We always have talks about this, and it's always fun to engage and talk to the fans and followers and supporters and my BEASTwriter family. So be sure to go ahead and hit the like button. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. Also, be sure to subscribe if you have yet to do so in the lower right hand corner of your screen, as we stay up to date on all things Beast. Alright, I'll be back later on this evening as I break down and continue my top 50 big board and ranking those players from 6 to 10. Thank you very much. Have a good night. BEASTwriter out.